All in all, so contest over. Why am I still posting videos? Well, I had half a video file edited and about 45 gig of footage on an SD card left to go through, so I figured what the hell, might as well just post it. Oh, the mugs you ask? I found out that it's running tradition in a GGBO build video to appear with a mug of coffee, and I didn't do that, so I'm catching up now. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will be back at the end to talk to you a bit more. It is Sunday the 20th of June. As I'm recording this, video 4 has gone live a couple of hours ago. I have 9 days to turn this into something playable. No pressure. Up until last week, I was pretty sure that this was going to be a spray paint job. But the weather kind of put paid to that. I can't paint indoors because of the fumes, I can't paint outdoors because of the rain. A new plan was needed. No pressure. And to top it all, it had to be cheap, because between a new saw and enough material for 3 fretboards, my budget's wiped. No pressure. I want to thank everyone who commented on the quick update video. No pressure. It was really encouraging to hear in from everyone and to read all your suggestions and all the ideas you came up with. There were a lot of really great ideas. If I hadn't figured out a solution by a couple of hours after the time the video went live, I would have had a pretty decent selection to choose from. So again, thanks for that. So, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to channel my inner Bennett Grow. No pressure. At the 11th hour, with no time to spare, I'm going to knock things up a notch. Bam! Take the path taken. Go complex. High concept. Double or quits. Who dares wins? No pressure. Before I get started, I wanted to at least cover what my original idea was, so you guys have a bit of a starting point in my thought process. Star Destroyer guitar. How do you finish this? There's only really 3 colours that you can paint a Star Destroyer. Grey, white, and red. If you happen to know why a Star Destroyer should be red, congratulations. You're an awesome human being. For those of you who don't know, don't worry, I'll tell you. In the old Star Wars Expanding Universe canon, there was a red Star Destroyer called the Errant Venture. It started off as a regular Imperial Star Destroyer, under the command of the Empire, and was seized as legitimate salvage by a smuggler called Booster Terric. And over a couple of books, it was slowly converted from a warship into a sort of combined smuggler's den, luxury casino, and edgy holiday resort that just happened to be Star Destroyer shaped, armed to the teeth, and painted bright red. There's something about that I thought was just really cool. And I wasn't alone. The Star Wars book writers must have felt that as well, because the Errant Venture kept coming back in book after book after book. Also, let's face it, a red guitar looks cooler than a grey guitar. This guitar's full name was going to be the Imperator EV-H1. The EV, of course, standing for the Errant Venture. And then, spray painting was cancelled, so I had to think up of a new plan. No pressure. Because I started this build with spray paint in mind, I didn't choose the prettiest, most photogenic plank of ash available at my local woodshop. And, let's be honest, I was very rough when I shaped this. There was a lot of tear out. I don't have to tell you. You can probably see all the spot filling putty from here. So, whatever finish I chose would have to hide that. My first thought was veneer. Not something exotic or flamed. Not trying to pretend that I've used a prettier wood than I actually have used. Plain ash veneer. The same wood the body is made out of, just in a prettier shape. My local woodshop sells big reels of iron-on veneer. I have on hand some water-based stains, and some true oil. So I wouldn't have had time to let the true oil cure fully by the end of the contest, but a stain finish with some oil on it should have time to dry, at least, by the end of the contest. The problem with that line of thinking? Well, a roll of iron-on veneer costs about £25. Between all the purchases I had to make to finish the neck last week, I can have £35 in my budget. The 4 rolls out. So, I looked at other cheaper options. As well as the 4 rolls, my local woodshop sells edge banding. This is pretty much exactly the same stuff, only in thin strips sold by the metre. More importantly, whereas a 2.5 metre sheet of veneer costs about 25 quid, this stuff sells at 61 pence per metre. This is cheap enough to be in my budget. It's wood. I know for a fact that this takes stain very well, and it also finishes quite nicely with true oil. So yeah, I was going to finish my guitar in stained edge banding. My initial thought was to take the guitar, take some strips, line them up in a sort of herringbone pattern, stain that, oil it, call it a day. As I walked down to the woodshop, I got a bolt of inspiration out in blue. A full-on eureka moment. The thought process kind of went like this. Errant Venture, EV, EV-H, Eddie Van Halen. Who sees where I'm going with this? In my collection of stains and finishes, I happen to already have some red, some black, and I'm working with a material that will apply itself really, really well to strips, stripes, and geometric patterns. I'm going to make a Star Destroyer with a stained Frankenstrat finish. The Imperator EV-H1. There are some ideas that are just so far out there that they just have to be tried. Just to see what will happen. No pressure. So this video is going to be a little different. I'm going to be doing a bit more voiceover work, and this is probably going to be less funny. This build has been all go all the time, and I
just haven't had the amount of time I normally would to sit back and think up of dumb gags and puns. Sorry, the humour kind of took a backseat on this one. I started by removing some grain filler that I put on the body. This was kind of a backup idea, so that if the marquetry failed or the veneer started peeling off, there'd be a red undercoat to it all. But about halfway through that, I realised that if the marquetry failed, then this video just wasn't going to see the light of day. So it was a bit of a pointless task. I sanded back the grain fill to the bare wood, and then I started drawing out a Frankenstrat type pattern. I wasn't going for a specific replica or any recreation. I wanted something that looked close to the part. Something that had all the key elements, the essence of a Frankenstrat. Once I got something I was happy with, I began to lay out the veneer onto the body. So I'm doing everything in a herringbone pattern, like I said earlier. Essentially one row at a time, starting from the outside, going to the inside. At first, my idea was to cut out each of the individual pieces of a row and iron them on one at a time. I did that for one row. It was very slow and it was not at all accurate. From the second row onwards, I ironed on the entire strip in one go and then just cut out chunks that I didn't want with a Stanley knife and scraped them off with the chisel. This was slow going still, but it was way more accurate than the way I was doing it before. When I started, I thought I had an afternoon's work on my hands, and it turns out that this was going to take 3 whole days. By the end of the second day, I had enough done to the first stain pass. First up, I masked everything off that wasn't going to get filled or stained, and then I applied a red grain fill. Ash always benefits from a basic grain fill. Once I did that, I waited for it to cure, sanded it back, then spent a bit of time getting the red stain right. I don't think I've got the red stain right. I think I went a little bit too crimson, but it is what it is. Once I had that nice and dry, I sealed everything with a couple of coats of true oil and let it cure overnight. On the traditional Frankenstrat, you tend to paint the guitar body white first, apply masking tape, then paint it black, apply masking tape again, and then paint it red. Peel off all the masking tape, clear coat it, add some retro reflectors, a nickel, some cigarette burns. It's pretty much done. Here I'm doing kind of reverse. The red sections will be going on first, then I add in the black and the white stripes. I kind of did this the wrong way. I applied the red first, then the white stripes, figuring that I would do all the black stripes off the body. I would just cut them to size, grain fill them, stain them, add some true oil, and then just iron them on. But I found out very quickly that applying the heat of an iron to a coat of true oil caused it to instantly decure and become very tacky. Having to reapply the soldering iron over areas which I had previously stained and oiled and decuring them wasn't really a great option, so instead I thought I might as well just bite the bullet and add the black stripes on the body and do all the mixing and hope that the black stain didn't bleed too much. Once I had the black stripes ironed onto the body, I masked everything off as best I could. I grain filled them, sanded it back, stained it, and sealed it with true oil. Left it to cure overnight. In the morning, I could start just applying coats of true oil directly onto all the body at once. Around the time I started adding the red stain on, I also started working on the neck. I did take the time to use a small strip of ash veneer to make the popsicle stick disappear. A couple of coats of red stain and some birchwood casey, and it's doing a very good job of being hidden now. Okay, so, truth be told, I am not as in love with this finish as I thought I would be. It's really a case of good idea, not so good execution. I've used the edge banding before, but I've never quite used the edge banding like this. I was unprepared just quite how tricky it would be to get everything to the right size, and there are a lot more spotty areas than I would like. The irony of it all, I did all this because the weather forecast predicted that this week and last week would be constant rain, and that rain never happened, so I could have gotten away with a spray paint job. Anyway, I think this is enough voiceover for now. I'm going to hand you back to On Camera Andy, and he's going to start talking about how to make some Beskar.
What is Beskar? Well, it's Mandalorian speak, for Mandalorian iron. A metal that can resist a lot of stuff. Blasters, lightsaber strikes, and that's about it. It was first introduced as a concept in the old canon, in the Tales of the Jedi comics in the 1990s. It got the name Beskar in the early 2000s, I think. It was created by Karen Traviss, one of the Star Wars authors, who pretty much single-handedly invented most of the pre-Clone Wars era Mandalorian culture. And we're going to stop there, because I have a lot of feelings and thoughts on that issue, and if I don't stop here, this video will just be a 2-hour fanboy rant. Beskar is hard to get, and it took a while, but I've located the source of the stuff. There's this client on Navarro who is offering a whole cantonment of the stuff as paying for a bounty hunting job. All I've got to do is find a spaceship. Luckily, I live in South Wales, so all I really have to do is wander about the streets until I find a blue police box and steal that. I'll be right back.
Oberyn Martell beat me to it. Now, for those of you who haven't seen The Mandalorian, Beskar is depicted like this. I.e., Disney are taking the Game of Thrones approach. All magical metals are Damascus steel. Given the popularity of the show, there's a lot of replica Beskar ingots out there, each made in a different way. 3D printed, CNC machined, hydro dipped, painted, etc. These are all the parts that are going to get a Beskar job. You may recognise some of these: the harmonica block from the bridge, the neck joint plate, and these four in the middle, which I have made off camera. Well, these are going to be the pickup covers and the scratch plates for the control cavities. Originally my plan was to electro-etch a Beskar pattern on all these, then I would anodise them and then strip part of the anodizing off. But, well, I did a bit of testing and it didn't work as well as I wanted it to. So, okay, here's the big problem. This is 6080 series aluminum, and I know for a fact that this stuff anodizes beautifully with my anodizing setup. This stuff is 1000 series aluminum. I have never got the stuff to anodize properly. I know you can anodize it, but I can't with my setup. So here's how I'm going to do things. These five will get the Beskar pattern etched onto it. I'm going to fill in some of the cracks with some black model enamel. This stuff is made from model planes, and I found that it adheres to aluminum perfectly. This stuff is very wear resistant. The harmonica block, being 6080 series aluminum, will get the etching treatment, and then I will anodize it and strip the etching off like I planned. Hi, VoiceOver Andy here again, explaining on camera Andy's gibberish. So, to etch something, in general you need three things. Something to etch, an etching medium, and a resist, which, as the name implies, is something that resists the etching process and creates the pattern. For this Beskar look, I'm using toner transfer. I made this Beskar-like pattern in GIMP and had it printed. Normally, for my etching resist, I use self-adhesive vinyl, but I don't have access to a vinyl cutter right now. And the Beskar pattern that I made has some ultra-fine lines that even a good vinyl cutter would struggle with. Now, I prepared my pickup covers by wet sanding them to 1000 grit. Then I cut out some resists for them from the Beskar sheet. I transferred the resists across by gluing them onto masking tape. Then I lined them up on the covers and wrapped the masking tape around them. In between every step, I wiped the covers down with acetone to try and make sure that dirt or grease didn't get in the way. You need a really, really pristine surface for this to work. Anyway, after this I started the tone transfer process itself. You do this by taking a clothes iron, turning it on to its highest possible setting, and pressing down on the toner and the piece to be etched for anything between 5 to 10 minutes. Anyway, once that's done, I left it to cool down, and I dunked it in a container of water. The idea is that the paper fibres absorb a lot of water and the paper breaks down a lot easier. Then you just scrub the paper off with a toothbrush, and that leaves you with a pattern that, in theory, is ready to etch. Except, didn't work. The Beskar has failed completely. Well, at least the tone transfer has failed pretty much completely. Out of the 5 pieces that I did the tone transfer on, these are the 2 best successes. Yeah, so this was my best success out of the whole batch. The tone transfer was incredibly faint, so I traced over it with some enamel paint. This was the best of all the 5. The others looked like this. I'm incredibly frustrated with this. This is not my first time doing tone transfer. Normally I do this sort of thing, I do tone transfer for printed circuit boards rather than decorative stuff, but I have used it for decorative stuff before. And normally I get them printed in one specific place in town. Unfortunately, COVID has closed it down permanently. So I thought I'd try another printing place. Whatever toner they're using does not transfer well. I stayed up something like 2:30 this morning trying to figure out how to get this to work, and yeah, I came to the conclusion that if I had an extra 48 hours and it wasn't on the weekend, I would run about to all the various print shops in town and just try them all out until I got something that worked. There is no time for that. So here's what I'm going to do. So anyone who's seen The Mandalorian knows that Beskar in its ingot state looks something like this. However, the moment you smelt it, it looks something like this. Oh look, some smelted Beskar scratch plates. I've decided that as I'm bailing on the whole Beskar look, I'm going to bail on the pickup cover plates as well. They were only really there to make the pickups match everything else, and if I'm not doing that, then there's no point having them there. Apart from drilling the mounting holes, there isn't really much I can do with these right now, so I'm going to put them to one side and carry on with some other stuff. Okay, so I've been anodizing the bridge in the background, and that is turning out pretty damn nice if I say so myself. The harmonica block is currently in the tank. Hang on, I'll just bring you over and show it. This is my anodizing setup. It's not exactly very pretty or photogenic, but it gets the job done.
Before I can get started on the super fun task of dressing the fretboard and doing all the fret leveling and crowning and whatnot, I still have to make one or two last parts. I've got to make a nut, a string locking mechanism, and a plate for the tremolo cavity. Now for my nut, I've already hacked out a piece of aluminum angle. For the string locking mechanism, I'm going to be using this offcut, same stuff that I made the base plate out of. This was the base plate. Nut and string locking mechanism is probably the most important thing, so let's get them done next. My string locking mechanism is going to be relatively straightforward. It's just going to be a chunk of aluminum with 6 holes drilled into it for the strings. The strings will go through the holes on the front, and then I'll have some holes around the back, into which I will tap some tiny little M3 dog point grub screws. The finished locking piece will look something like this, because I've got to drill holes in this both on the top and on the side. I've got a template with nice square edges for me to reference up against my drill press vise. I'm going to masking tape and super glue this template up and then tack it out. The whole point of these crenellations is that I have a flat edge that references against another flat edge. When I put this in my drill press, I'm actually drilling the holes parallel and therefore straight. So, yeah, I'm just going to file this out carefully and then start drilling. Once I'm done, both the reference edges get chopped off, so that's what this second template is for. Back to the filing. Okay, so the cross-drilling template is printed, so this just pops onto the crenellations and locks into them. That gives you a nice starting point. Right, so I don't know if you'll be able to see that through the holes. Grub screws are fitting perfectly. The next job, take the grub screws out, of course, then I'm going to mount this template, cut off the base, file off the crenellations, and bring it to final shape. Ta-da! So I guess that now that we've reached this point, I guess it's time to start doing the fret dressing. Fretboard, dressing, levelling, and other fun stuff. I'm going to take the nut off. Right, let's put that to one side for now. Going to mask off the fretboard. Jump cut to when that's done. Now, obviously it'll surprise no one that I don't have the right tool for the job. One Wilco brand level sanding beam. I've got some 180 grit on it. Let's do this. Right, I've taken this about as low as I can get. There are a couple of low spots that I just can't chase out. Okay, I'm going to re-crown the frets. Fortunately for the fret crowning job, I do actually have one of these GGBO fret crowning files. I'll resharpen the frets and I'll be right back. Sorry, I thought I'd do one just to get my eye in, and I kind of got carried away and did half the fretboard. So, if I had the budget for crimson fret rowers, this would be the time I'd be using them. I mean, I don't, so quick pass over with some 400 grit and some 600 grit, and hopefully that'll do the trick. Well, it's not perfect, but for my purposes, that's certainly good enough. Right, might as well do the old half pencil trick. One trick I worked out a while ago to get the radius on the nut in is to just use the radius block that you use for the neck with some coarse grip belt, carefully sand it down. Looks like I might have to rework the string locking mechanism. It is a little bit higher than I thought it would be. Yeah, I need to think this through. I am about to do something stupid. Something I told everyone in an early video not to do ever under any circumstances at all. I'm going to use my drill press as a mill. Here's the situation. My parents are away on a week's vacation. My nut and string locking mechanism is a little bit too big. I didn't foresee that I would have to drop the frets quite so much just to be able to level the fretboard, so that leaves me with two options. One, trim down both the string lock mechanism and the nut. So I would be shortening the nut down to about the end of that black plastic bar and shortening the string lock by the same amount. I'm not a massive fan of that idea because I don't really like the idea of the string lock just being held on by 2 bolts rather than 4. So I am going to shorten the nut, and I'm going to use my drill press as an end mill to carve a very shallow slot into the base of the string lock so that it can accept the shortened nut. This is a stupid idea and I really should not be attempting it. Especially on this little sleep and this much caffeine.
What I'm doing is incredibly dumb. Do not do this at home. I should not be doing this at home. If I had the time, I'd think of something else, but right now, this is the best I've got. It's a start, but I've still got quite a bit deeper to go, so I think I'm going to do the rest off camera. It was going really well, and then I had a little bit of an accident. The end mill caught on the side, snagged, and chucked this out of the drill press. I'm going to have to live with a little boo-boo there, because I don't really have time to fix it. So, I'm now doing something that I read about on the internet a couple of years ago, and honestly did not believe until I tried it. I think I should demonstrate it, because no one will believe me otherwise. So, when your chisels are really scary sharp, you can actually use them to scrape through metal. Ta-da! So the nut and string lock assembly looks like that now. Yeah, the next thing to do is going to be to cut the nut slots. And I think for that, it's going to be time to actually attach the bridge to the body. I thought if I had to dry fit the bridge, I might as well just dry fit everything else, see how it fits. So I'm still not exactly 100% convinced that this is a good, great, amazing GGBO entry, but it's definitely something at least. Yeah, I'm going to line up the centre of the locking hole on the back and the centre holes on the bridge. That should give me an idea of the path of the string. Then I will draw a quick line on the nut in Sharpie. Hopefully that'll give me somewhere to rest my strings. That's my nut spacing. Okay, so for now, I'm not actually going to cut the nut slots to depth. I'm going to open them with a triangular modelling file, but I'm not going to cut them to depth. I will do that tomorrow morning when I've got everything assembled and the setup is done a little bit better. My gut does say that I've cut this nut a little bit too short and I'm going to need to remake it. It is Tuesday 29th, around about 10 AM. I've only just finished editing together everything I shot yesterday. I am close to done, but not done. I have slightly more caffeine running in my bloodstream than I actually have blood now. I think I have about 10 hours to get all this done and edited into a coherent video and uploaded, and then I have to start working on a supercut for tomorrow. So that's fun. Right, so what is on my to-do list for today? First thing to do on the to-do list, I'm going to remake the nut. The one I've got here, I cut it way too low. Fortunately, I have just enough scrap aluminum to remake it. Have to finish making the scratch plates. I have to partly de-anodize the bridge, which I'll explain why in a second. Then I have to assemble everything, do a basic setup, actually cut the nut slots to dimension, wire everything up. With any luck, I should have this done by the end of the afternoon today. I'm hoping around 5 o'clock. If not, then later. Here we go again, hopefully
for the last time.
I've just realised that I need the string lock to do the fitting of the nut, and the string lock is in the anodizing setup, so this might be on hold for an hour and a half. While I'm waiting for that, I'm going to start partly de-anodizing the bridge. Why would you do that? I hear you cry. So this is something that is, 9 times out of 10, this is a major advantage, but here is a bit of a hindrance. Anodized aluminum doesn't conduct electricity. Okay, let me demonstrate. If I touch my multimeter's probes to the body of the saber, which is non-anodized, it conducts. If I touch the body of the saber to one of the anodized stripes, it doesn't conduct. Normally, this is actually a major advantage of the anodizing process because it means that you don't have to worry about shorts in your aluminum parts. In this particular scenario, it is a bit of a problem because it means that in its current state, the bridge can't be grounded. The ground would connect to the tremolo claw, which would then connect to the springs, which in turn would connect to the tremolo block. The ground path would stop there. To make sure that all the strings are grounded, I'm going to have to de-anodize a small section of the base plate and the tremolo block. So there's two real ways to remove anodize from aluminum, mechanically and chemically. I'm going to do it chemically because, quite honestly, mechanically sucks. Mechanically is short for sanding it off, and it takes forever and is not fun. Not doing that. Chemically is much simpler and much faster. All you have to do is take the aluminum parts and dunk them into a concentrated lye solution, water and caustic soda crystals. Before I do that, I have to protect the areas that I want to remain anodized. I'm going to do that with a mix of vinyl tape and makeup. Oh, you thought I was kidding about the makeup? No. Nail varnish is something that every DIY hobbyist should have. This stuff is
just wasted on nails. I've used nail varnish as an etching resistant, anodizing resistant, layout fluid, DIY Loctite, coating for homemade PCBs. I've used it for practically everything except coating my nails with it. I will mask off about as much as I can with vinyl tape. The areas that are tricky to get to with vinyl tape, I will just slather on with nail varnish. Okay, so that might seem to be overkill, but trust me when I say that I've done this process before several times. Whenever I don't go for overkill, I have a bad time. I prepared a quick lye solution, just a couple of teaspoonfuls of caustic soda and some water. Just to be on the safe side, I am going to wear one glove. I'm just going to dunk this straight into the lye solution and then dunk it into the water. This will go exceptionally fast. I'm not going to enhance the speed. I'm going to play this back in real time just to show you how fast this is going to go. And we're done. Despite me trying my best to make sure that it didn't happen, it looks like the lye did manage to break through in one or two spots. Right, now to clean off nail varnish. Acetone. Lots and lots of lovely acetone. So this is going to be very simple. One volume, one tone, a two-way switch. I prefer two-way over three-way because, let's face it, I only ever play with one humbucker on full. All those fancy coil splitting and tapping options. I've tried putting them on guitars and then I just end up never using them and going straight back to bridge humbucker or neck humbucker only. So two-way is fine for me. And a rotary encoder which will control all the functions on the Teensy. Let's get all this drilled. Voiceover end here again. So this 1000 series aluminum plate might have been the single worst thing that I have ever had to drill. Don't know what it is about 1000 series aluminum, but it is an absolute nightmare to work with. It is the gummiest metal I have ever found with. Yeah, when you run a drill through it, the drills don't cut away material so much as they push it away. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to drill through metal. It feels like I'm trying to drill through a plastic that's melting as I try and drill through it. Yeah, it was not a fun experience to work with. I had the kind of troubles with this that normally I have with brass or copper. 1000 series aluminum. Can't drill it, can't anodize it. Anyway, I got it done in the end. It's going to need some cleanup. Right, so here's the state of things. I've made the nut Mark II. I have anodized the locking mechanism. It hasn't come out quite as black as I'd hoped, nowhere near as pretty as the bridge. So, next job, actually cutting the proper nut slots to size. I am, in fact, one of those idiots who, on the advice of the internet, bought a set of welder tip cleaning files to slot nuts with. Okay, I'm going to do the rest off camera. So I've got the nut slotted. I can't believe I'm still going to say this, but it's time for assembly. I would like to point out that, yes, I did completely forget to make a backplate. Let's face it, if not having a backplate was good enough for Eddie Van Halen, it's good enough for me. So, around that point, I stopped recording. My sarcastic commentary was turning more into long streams of swearing. I did 14 hours of building on the 29th, which followed another 14 to 15 hours on the day before. I got the guitar built, but I wasn't happy with it. Not just in that the artist's eye always sees all the imperfections way. I am planning to do a full post-mortem of the Imperator sometime next week. I'm going to do as good a setup job on it as I can over the weekend. Play around with it for a bit, get the feel for it and see what works, what doesn't work, what will need to be improved going forwards, etc. There is one last thing that I want to address. Why did I not submit this? What I have here is a mostly working instrument. I'm not satisfied with it. The pickups work. The tremolo also works.
To anyone who was wondering about interference, yeah, the NeoPixels work, and there is no interference from them. I need to play something better than that. Okay, so I am A, out of practice, and B, out of tune. But, yeah, it just goes to show, there is no interference from the NeoPixel signals. So, why didn't I submit this? As dumb as it sounds, when I started this build, I set myself a series of criteria, and I didn't meet all those criteria. Some of those criteria were flexible. Okay, so when I started making my own hardware, that was a criteria, but I was also aware that I could fail at that, and if needs be, I would replace it with a purchase option. One thing I wasn't willing to give up on was that I wanted this to be my first sellable instrument. I've made quite a few guitars this past decade. All of them have been made to my standard, for me to play. They've not been made for someone else to play. I'm willing to cut corners in quality for myself that I would be unwilling to cut if I was building something for someone else. I wanted this to be of a someone else standard. I wanted this to be an instrument that if you happen to be a gigging guitarist and you have a gig tonight, right now, in 5 hours time, your main guitar broke at a gig last night and you've just opened up your backup guitar case and found that tiny stretch crack you saw the last time you opened your backup guitar case has now become the Grand Canyon somehow, and your backup guitar is unplayable and you have no other option but to go to a guitar shop and buy a new one. I wanted this to be on par with the commercially made guitars that you would see in that shop. I wanted a guitarist to pick this up off the shelf, give it a strum, hand over money at the till, set it up, and then go play a gig with it, and be satisfied with this as an instrument. And I didn't meet that standard. Everything was going well until I screwed up the neck the first time by cutting into it when I was cleaning off the cover plate. I should have stopped there and remade the entire neck, but I didn't. Things kind of just got worse from there. I mean, the fretboard, I know I'm not great with fretboards, but I did a hideously bad job, he says, as his fretboard is currently glowing with all the colours of the rainbow. The LEDs I'm satisfied with. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I'm now getting into post-mortem video territory and I want to save all my thoughts for that. I think this is as good a point as any to call it a day. Before I end this video, I just want to say thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone who watched the videos, everyone who commented, everyone who gave suggestions on the update video, anyone who gave me positive feedback, and all the support I got in the last couple of videos where I wasn't sure I was going to make it. I was not expecting it, and I am very grateful for it. So yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot. Those of you who left dislikes on the video, however, are going to be going to that level of special hell reserved for child molesters and people who speak loudly at the theatre. You know who you are. So yeah, I think that covers out everything I want to say. There'll be a post-mortem video coming soon, hopefully sometime in the next week or the next 2 weeks, depends on how busy I am. And then at some point over the summer, I'm going to carry on trying to figure out what went wrong with the original pickups that I made. There might be videos coming from that, there might not, all depends on how that works out. Maybe some videos about the electronics and how that's progressing. Maybe something if I can find the budget to build a replacement neck. Good luck to anyone who is in the GGBO for last time, I guess. Thanks for watching.